two things can be true at the same time. It's a phrase I grew up knowing. It's a phrase that a lot of people actually haven't heard. It's a phrase you can Google. It might also come up as two things can be true at once. But basically, it means exactly what it sounds like. Two things can be true at once. The best example I can think about this would be a really charged topic. For example, there are good cops and there are bad cops. Two things can be true at the same time. And I feel like this generation, at least on social media, from what I've seen, very much do not encompass that statement. I feel like they encompass the exact opposite, where it's just like, if you believe in this or you believe this, then that. It's almost like on social media, Gen Z and a lot of people live in a this or that, when in reality, in real life, a lot of things is this and that, or neither, or all, or both. And it's just kind of weird that everybody's like very divided and very like extreme opinions about stuff. It's kind of weird to me, because I'm just like, when did we get like this? Because like I said, growing up, I feel like we weren't as divided, at least in real life. Like I said, social media, even growing up on social media, I'm old, so my first social media, like my first time going online social media and like talking to other people was like, I think the Nintendo Insider forums was like my first thing, and then like Gaia Online. And then after that, it was MySpace. Those were like the thing, because I didn't have AOL Messenger. So for me, it was the Insider forums, I remember in middle school. Then Gaia Online, like the end of middle school and high school. And then when MySpace became popular, like MySpace like was my thing in high school. So I didn't get into Facebook until I was in college. But it seems like we weren't as divided as people. Even when I was like in my early 20s, we weren't as divided. But now social media, everybody's just very like divided about stuff. And it's kind of weird, because I'm just like, everything's not always black and white, especially in real life. And like a perfect example of this is like, because the biggest thing on social media people talk about is like men and women issues. And it's just, man, it's just crazy how people just be going at each other's throats. Like, for example, they'll say things like, women be gold diggers. I mean, there are some women that are gold diggers, right? But if women hear that, they're like, oh, so you must be a misogynistic incel or whatever, and you hate women. Just because they might say some women are gold diggers, or, they'll be like, some women will be like, some men are predators. They won't say men are predators, because if they say all men are predators, that's different. But they'll be like, some men are predators. Oh, you hate men. And it's just like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of these blanket general statements are not good for everyone, because my thing is like, if somebody brings up men's issues, I feel like people are quick to dismiss, to be like, well, women have it harder and this, that, and the third. And it's like, listen, bro, I can support women and understand women have issues, and also understand that I support men and also men have issues too. It's not an either or like topic. It's not, oh, women's issues are worse than men's issues, so you can't. No, like, men have their issues and women have their issues. Why can't we both try to like, okay, we'll talk about women's issues when it's time to talk about women's issues, and then when it's time to talk about men's issues, let's talk about men's issues. The problem is, it's not time that if we're talking about women's issues, that's not the time to bring up men's issues. If we're talking about men's issues, that's not the time to bring up women's issues. You talk about your issues when the time's up, but just because we talk about one or the other doesn't mean I hate the opposite sex. If I talk about issue with men, doesn't mean I hate the opposite sex. Or if I talk about the issue with women, doesn't mean I hate the opposite. Like, that's weird to me, that people are so like very divided about men's and women's issues, when really it shouldn't be. Really we should be trying to solve both men and women issues, instead of trying to play this oppression Olympics, my issues are worse or whatever, right? And it's the same thing. It's like, I don't know, people are very much like, you either like, chocolate chip cookies or oatmeal raisin cookies, or they're like, you either like Donald Trump or you like Joe Biden, or so either you like soccer or swimming. And it's like, bro, you can like chocolate chip and oatmeal raisin cookies. You can like neither Donald Trump or Joe Biden. You can like soccer or swimming, or you can prefer soccer over swimming, but still think swimming's cool. Like, nobody, just because you like one or the other doesn't like one thing over something else doesn't mean you hate the other thing. But that's what I feel like a lot of people act like. They act like, oh, if you like this one thing, then you must hate the other thing. And I was like, when did we get to the extreme of that, right? And I see that a lot when it comes to like stuff about America too, because I'm an American citizen. It's like, if you criticize, for certain sects of the internet, if you criticize America, they're just like, oh, so you hate America, you need to leave this country. No. I can criticize America and still be grateful that I'm American, that I live here. Like, that's crazy that if you criticize America, oh, you must hate America. I'm like, so did our family fathers and people that fought the Civil War and fought against slavery, they hated America because they questioned the status quo of America? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm glad, like, people in the past never had the idea, oh, well, if you, I mean, granted, certain people in the past probably had the idea, but like, I'm glad people wasn't like, oh, well, if you question these American ethics, you need to leave. And it's just like, nah, bro, like, sometimes it's okay to question stuff, bro. And this is why I say, like, I'm kind of glad I grew up when I did. And I'm very glad I went to college, like, at the time period I did, because I feel like nowadays you can't even ask questions without getting canceled or people being mean at you and yelling at you. And it's crazy. Like, I remember watching a clip of some dude, and he was asking about gender. And he wasn't even giving his opinion. He was just asking about gender on a college campus. And the people were coming to him talking about, you're homophobic and transphobic. And he was like, for what? He was like, because you're asking about gender. He was like, but I'm trying to figure out like the difference between men and women and what makes a woman a woman, what makes a man a man. He was legit asking questions because he said, I want to know. And basically the person was like, well, you're a white male and you can't. And he was like, first of all, who says I identify as white? Who says I identify as male? She was like, well, he was like, no. Because that's what y'all say, right? I can identify as what I want to. Who says I identify as male? So it's just crazy that they were really mad because dude was asking questions, legit questions. And like, you can't even do that. Because when I went to college, bro, I was asking questions. We was asking questions a lot. I majored in sociology. And one of the things, like, I am grateful for the professors at my school because they always were like, ask questions. Don't just believe what anybody tells you. Like, ask questions and do your own research. And even my professors, sometimes they would even tell us like which way they leaned, like politically. They might be like, oh, I lean more politically right, I lean more politically left. But one thing I'm grateful, none of them were ever like, yeah, the right side's always right or the left side's always right. They were like, yeah, I might lean more heavily this way. But they were like, I value certain politics that are conservative. Or they're like, I value certain politics that are liberal. And I really like that. Because it never was a extreme, oh, if you like anything that's liberal, you're a liberal snowflake. Or if you like anything that's conservative, you're a homophobic racist. It wasn't like that. And we were allowed to ask questions because there was a lot of things, especially a lot of kids, because you got people from different backgrounds. Everybody didn't grow up the same. And so, like, people were allowed to ask questions about stuff like people get canceled for it now because, like, people had questions about, like, poor people of different races, people of different ethnicities, gender questions, like, all kinds of questions. And we were allowed to ask them without, like, quote unquote, being canceled because it was just, nobody was, like, in their feelings about stuff. I mean, some people were, but, like, nobody was, like, trying to cancel people. And that's one thing I feel like this generation doesn't do. Like, they just listen to whatever, like, Twitter or social media says. Oh, well, Twitter says I should be mad at this, so I'm mad about that. Or, social media says I should be mad. They don't know nothing about what they talking about. A lot of people on social media just be yapping about stuff and don't know nothing what they be talking about. All kinds of politics, wars, all kinds of stuff where they just be yapping. They're like, okay, well, where'd you get your information? Twitter told me. And that's a legit thing. This person told me. They didn't bother doing their own research. And I'm just like, bro, you gotta do your own research, bro. Like, I don't want to live in a world where we can't even ask questions. Because how are we supposed to learn? Like, you should not be canceled for asking questions online. Like, I know some people are going to be like, oh, you just ask questions, do your own research at home. And I'm like, yeah, you should. But also, you should be able to ask questions online. You shouldn't. I remember I used to watch this podcast. It was Righteous and Ratchet. It was a guy named Kevin on Stage. And back when he used to have a co-host named Doughboy, and he didn't know a lot about Black history. And like the comments were always tearing him up because he was like, you don't know this about Black history. You're Black. How do you not know this? Blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, that's weird. You're weird, guys. Everybody didn't grow up the same, bruh. And it's just, I don't know, like everybody's a little bit too extreme, and I feel like people need to calm down and stop being so divided on everything, and stop being like, oh, you can't ask questions here, though, and if you believe this, you can't believe that, and if you this, and if you believe this and you don't believe that, and I was like, bruh. It's like sometimes, and I'm not saying you can't have a this or that opinion, because I understand there's some topics out there where you kind of really do have to have a this or that opinion. But especially if people are asking questions, we're like, okay, well, why should I believe this thing, or what, like, especially if they don't understand what's going on, or they don't have the knowledge. It's like, okay, well, why should I support this side compared to supporting this side? And then you're like, you don't know why you should support this side instead. Yeah, do your research. That's stupid. Because guess what that person's now going to do? They're going to look at you and be like, okay, well, the people that support this side are mean, they're jerks, and they think they're all that. So I'm definitely not supporting this side. Like, that doesn't help your cause. And like, I've seen people on Twitter get canceled for all kinds of stuff. I saw a woman post that said, yeah, men deserve to be happy in relationships too. And boy, the people were trying to kill. They were like, men deserve to die. No, they don't. They're horrible. I'm just like, because she said men deserve to be happy in relationships. That's why I said, for me personally, if you got Twitter, brain rot. Like, I don't know, because the people in my life that I'm friends with don't have a Twitter. Because I'm just like, I'm convinced if you on Twitter, brain rot. And I mean, I have Instagram, and sometimes Instagrams have some crazy stuff, but man, Twitter, I just be seeing videos about people posting stuff on Twitter. I just be like, bro, Twitter is a place where critical thinking goes to die. For real, for real. That's really what I think. Like, critical thinking is not strong on Twitter. And one thing I don't like that a lot of people say is when they say, oh, we value diversity. No, you don't. That's a lie. That's one of the biggest lies that's come out like the last 5 years, when they say we value diversity. No, you don't. You value groupthink and you value tribalism. Because like, I've seen on certain sects of the internet where like somebody was a certain race and ethnicity, and because even though the points they were making were true, they're just like, oh, well, you're this race and ethnicity. Be quiet. We don't want to hear what you have to say. But it had nothing to do with what they were actually saying. They're just saying, oh, well, because you're this gender or you're this ethnicity, we don't want to hear what you have to say. And as crazy is, like, I've seen it on two opposing sides of the internet that claim that the other side acts like that. And it's crazy. Like, I'm just going to say it. Like, I've seen it on the liberal side where, like, if a white man says anything, they're like, you're a white male. Shut up. We don't want to hear what you have to say. And I've seen it on the, like, conservative side where, like, it's an immigrant. And they were saying they weren't even a legal immigrant. They were a legal immigrant that legally immigrated here. And they were talking about the homeless population. People in the comments was literally, it's your fault. Get out of here. If you don't like America, you illegal immigrant. Everybody just assumed he was a legal immigrant. He said he legally immigrated here. And it's crazy how they just assumed, nah, because you're of this race, you must be a legal immigrant. And I was just like, bro. And it's funny because each side likes to point to the other side and be like, see how crazy these people are? And I'm just like, bro, y'all act the same. It is wild that y'all really just act the same and y'all don't see. If I hold up a mirror, you really just y'all looking back at each other. It might be different issues, but y'all act the same. So, I don't know. I feel like people should be more open to understanding the other side. That doesn't mean you have to agree with the other side. Because there's a lot of things I try to understand people that I don't agree with. But you should at least try to be open to some stuff to hearing the other side instead of automatically assuming, like, if somebody thinks this way that, okay, they're racist, especially if they're like racist, homophobic, sexist, whatever the buzzwords. Because I feel like those are buzzwords now. People don't even take that joke seriously when you, because I don't. Every time I be seeing, racist, sexism, misogynistic, toxic masculinity, homophobia, transphobia, I'm like, all right, bro. Like, I kind of roll my eyes. I'm like, yeah. Like, people get canceled for saying stuff that's not even all that crazy. I remember watching a video where this teacher he got fired because he basically just questioned the kid and made him critically think. And basically the topic was J.K. Rowling, and basically the kid said J.K. Rowling said like transphobic stuff. And so all the teacher didn't even say whether he agreed or disagreed. He said, oh, she did. Can you show me proof? And he said, where did you learn that? And he was like, well, this person said, my friend said that J.K. Rowling. He's like, okay, well, I don't want to know what your friend said. He said, I want to know, where did you get your research? Can you show me proof? And basically he had him like look up her Twitter quotes or whatever. And he was like, okay. And he basically made him go one by one and dissect. He was like, okay, what did she say here? He's like, oh, she said that like the thing he made was like, apparently J.K. Rowling said sex is a thing. He was like, okay, does that sound transphobic to you? He was like, no, that doesn't sound, because sex is a thing. There is male and female. There are differences between male and female. And so, like, he just kept going through like a couple of tweets that she went through, and he was like, so out of all the tweets she went through and everything, does it sound like she's transphobic? He was like, well, no, based on the evidence I've seen, no, that's not the case. He said, okay. He said, well, how does that make you feel? He said, well, I feel kind of dumb for just believing what somebody ever blindly told me. And the teacher even said, he said, I'm not here to say that I disagree with you, because he said maybe she did say some other stuff that was or not. He said, but based off the research that you're getting, like he said, the point is, think critically for yourself and do your own research, not just blindly believe what people tell you. And I was like, oh, that's really smart. And that teacher ended up getting fired. And I was like, bro, that's crazy, because he taught that he literally said he wasn't going to say he agrees or disagrees. He just wanted you to the kid to think critically. And it's just crazy that he really got fired for that. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm not surprised. That's kind of how the world is. And it's kind of crazy that people don't really understand the comment of two things can be true at the same time. I mean, I've had a conversation about like accountability and men and women. I've heard people be like, oh, you're just riding the fence. You're a fencer. I'm like, no, two things can be true at the same time. And I remember they were like, no, that's not a thing. I was like, wait. And that's when I learned, like, people on social media, especially social media, they're like, y'all have never heard that phrase? Two things can be true at the same time? Because that's a common phrase where I'm from. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like we got to do better as people instead of being so quick to be groupthink and tribalism. Maybe be a little bit more open to understanding somebody on their side, because, the person you think is your enemy, you be surprised how much you have in common. What's that quote from the Pokemon movie? Meowth said the other Meowth. He was like, we got the same land, we breathe the same air, share the same land. Maybe if we start looking at what's the same instead of what's different, well, who knows? It's a quote from Pokemon movie, something like that. Yeah, I feel like we as Americans definitely should do that, because the United States, more like divided states. Anyway, hope you have a great day. Bye.